Hey, this is Amy Scott Grant, your favorite spiritual ass kicker. Welcome back. This is part 2, the exciting conclusion of extensions of self. Dun dun dun. Sounds very intense, but you know what? I mean, it kind of is, right? Hopefully you've taken some time to sort of mull over this idea that you are vast, that you are far bigger and grander and more magnificent than you ever thought before. And if so, you're here today because you're ready to move forward and find out how does this work? How does this spiritual technology work? How do we use these extensions of ourselves? So I'm going to share 3, I have a list, right? It's right there. I'm looking at it. I have a list of 3 things I'm going to teach you today. And then it's going to be up to you to play with this and practice it. And you might improve on it. It happens. I love hearing about that. When people are like, so I took what you did and I did this. And I'm like, I love that. That's so great. Because these things, these techniques, they definitely evolve over time, right? And you may put your own unique spin on it, which is fantastic. I would love to hear about those. So share a comment and tell us, right? Or just tell us what you thought of this. But this is the how. We're actually going to move into action in this session in terms of utilizing these extensions of self. So the first idea that we're going to talk about is extension, right? And if you think about any skill that you have, I'm not talking about maybe a talent or something you were born with. I mean any skill that you have cultivated over time. Maybe you're a really excellent communicator, or maybe you can sing or play an instrument, or maybe there's a particular hobby or a craft or something that you're really good at. Maybe you're an awesome knitter or a really good cook, or you could solve problems, put things together, whatever. Very little, if any of this came from natural abilities that you had. And most of it came from you developing this muscle, your cooking muscle or your knitting muscle or your intuitive muscle. Even intuition is just like this. So just by practicing consciously and just reinforcing that skill through repetition, you were able to develop the degree to which you excel at it today. Right? Fair statement. This is the same kind of thing. So what I'm inviting you to do is to get in touch with your field of energy, right? I feel I don't know if you could see auras, you could probably tell, but this, you can't see, but I'm right about here. This feels like the outer edge of my energy today, and I can't see auras, but I can sense them. My oldest can see them. So she could, if she was here, she could tell me, no, Mom, you're here, or you're here, or you're here. I don't know. But this is where I'm feeling mine is today, because our field, just like our mood, can expand and contract and change colors just depending on what's going on with us that day. So if you kind of just get in touch with your field, and you don't have to define oh, I know where the edges are, but just notice that it's present, right? And then try pushing it outward, right? So if I'm feeling my energy is about here, you can't see that, sorry, it's about here. I might try pushing it out 6 inches more on both sides and just notice how that feels. I might be resistant to that. I may feel no, I don't want to do that. It's too much. Okay, well, maybe I could try 2 inches out or whatever. It's not really about results right now. It's about practice. When you, I don't know, if you play tennis or something, I know you wanted to get good right away. Maybe you hate that Stella girl and you really wanted to beat her at tennis, but she's so much better than you. Well, I know you wanted to be amazing at it overnight, but that doesn't happen. You have to practice. You have to do skill drills. You do all this stuff, and then you get better and better and better. And eventually maybe you could beat Stella, right? I don't actually know anyone named Stella, just in case you were wondering. But, Stella. Anyway, I've actually never seen that movie either. I know, it's so crazy. I grew up in the South too. Okay. But it's about extending, right? It's about, there's this thing that dancers do, right? If you take it, or if you take a Pilates or any kind of, even sometimes with yoga, depending on your instructor, it's dancers do this thing where they reach, and let's say they reach up And then a good instructor will push them even further. Like you can reach much more than that, right? And then they stretch even more. And it's like, you can reach even more, like stretch, extend. That's something they say constantly in dance class. I mean, I don't dance, right? But my middle one does. So I know these things because I've been to a lot of dance competitions. But that's something, and I sat in the lobby for a lot of dance classes. But extend is something they're constantly saying. So if you think about that concept, right? Any kind of stretch, or let's say, I know you can't see me if my arm goes above. Let's say my arm goes behind my head, okay? And I could do it like, there we go. And I could move it this far. Well, if I'm really going to extend, I'm going to take this hand and I'm going to reach it down my back, and I'm going to help support it with this hand on my elbow so that I can stretch it even further. And then if you were my teacher and you were a really, really good teacher, you'd be like, come on, Amy, you could do it. Stretch even more. And I might feel motivated and I could get it even further down my back. Right? Same kind of thing with energy. Only we're stretching the energy. We're stretching the energy. I can't fix them. And not the body. Right? Where if you imagine your field, wherever your field is, or you can even start with your hand, and let's say like you can feel, let's say you start feeling heat and energy right here. It's like, okay, so instead of just moving your hand out, it's like, okay, now get in touch with the energy that's in your fingers and push it, like stretch it. And see, I know if you don't try this, you're just like, so what? You're moving your hand. It's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to feel into the energy, because this bigger than you are doesn't mean your butt looks big in those jeans. No. It's not what I'm saying at all. I'm talking about your energy is way bigger than your body, like massively bigger than your body. Bigger than your body, bigger than your mind, bigger than all of it, right? The sum of you is vast. So like a dancer, push out your energy and extend and notice what happens. A big part of this is about observation, right? You know, I'll tell you a story. I don't like dogs. Make whatever you want out of that. I may be the only person in Colorado that doesn't have a dog, but I'm definitely a cat person through and through. I make no apologies for that. So I don't like dogs, and I especially hate when you're in the park and dogs like have to like come up to you, right, and sniff you. And here in Colorado, people assume everyone is a dog person. So they're like, they think you want to pet it. I don't want to pet your dog, lady. I'm sorry. Like, if you think I'm a bad person, oh well, I don't want to pet your dog. And I certainly don't want your dog drooling on my crotch or my shoes or any of that. Or like, I don't want it touching me. You know, maybe you have a pretty dog. I'd like to admire it from afar. So I decided one day when I was having one of these epiphanies about how vast we are, I thought, you know, what if I just had like a dog bubble? Not like immediately around me, but way around me. Like a big old bubble. And I treated it like an experiment. And I thought, I don't want dogs to come into my bubble. You know, like I don't mind dogs as a species. I just don't love them like some people do. I love cats that way. So I set up this dog bubble because I live right next door to a park, walk in the park all the time. And I was like, and some of you might remember because you may have been on that retreat when I came up with the dog bubble. And I was like, it's an experiment. I just want to try it. And so I like put on my dog bubble. It's an energetic thing. You couldn't see it. But I put on my dog bubble before I go to the park. And the most interesting things happened, right? So there's a lot of like walking trails in our park, and they fork in a lot of places. Not like a T intersection where you have to go left or right, but like they just sort of fork like a V, and you got to pick one side. And whatever side I was on, the dog would pick because, you know, in many of these situations, it's the dog walking the person and not the other way around, especially in the park. Like people are like, I don't care where you want to go, dog, whatever. So the dog would pick the opposite fork from me. And I thought, that's amazing, right? And then, of course, the more it happened, the more it reinforced my belief in my power of my dog bubble, right? And one time I remember a dog was coming towards me. There was no fork at this particular time. And I thought, oh no, like, what's happening? I know, do I have my dog bubble in place? Yes, I have my dog bubble in place. I don't know what's happening. The dog walks straight towards me and then like makes this wide berth around me and then keeps going. And the lady was kind of like, isn't that odd? It's like the dog walked totally around me, and oh my God, he like walked right up to my bubble, felt my bubble, and then went around the bubble and then kept going. Like, isn't that interesting? And then I'm sure I thought something like, cats would have seen the bubble a mile away, right? But like, anyway, I'm joking, What about Gannon? How do you feel about dogs and cats? Tell us. Are you a dog person? Are you a cat person? We get to know you through these little comments that you leave on these videos. And we sure do appreciate your support because, Gannon is at spiritual ass kicker level. So she helps keep the lights on, keep these videos going and edited and software and all the various expenses and time-consuming things that go into making this content. So I can talk to you about dog bubbles. So thank you, Gannon. That was an extension of me, right? The dog bubble was an extension of my energy. And that led to me playing with other things, right? Like when you're scared, let's say that you're walking by yourself at night in a strange city or just in not a great part of town, right? I grew up in New Orleans. There's a lot of parts of town. There's like horrible parts of town right next to super great parts of town. It's weird. So if you don't know where you're going, you could like cross over a street and be like, ooh, this is a little sketchy. And then it gets, good again. But anyway, what I found is that when we're scared, we tend to shrink our energy. Like we pull it way in close and tight around our chest. And we may even like people hunch, when they're scared, they kind of like hunch down and stuff. So I decided to try something different. When I was scared, instead of pulling my energy in, I decided to push it way out and make my energy field huge. And do you know, it worked just as well as the dog bubble, right? I mean, one could argue, like I could say nobody ever messed with me in a situation like that, but a pragmatist might say, well, how do we know no one would have messed with you if you hadn't done that? If you had been walking, sort of looking like a scared victim, no one might have messed with you then. We can't really know for sure. Well, that's true. We can't really know for sure. But you know what I can tell you? This feels a hell of a lot better and more empowering than this. Okay? This does not feel good. This feels constricted, confined. It feels like when you finally get to where you're going and you lock the door behind you, you're like, whew, right? It's like exhausting. This feels freaking amazing. And you're like, looking around, get to where you're going. It feels no different. You still feel amazing. So there's that, right? But that's an example of when I expanded my energy for a specific purpose. So play with that and notice the impact that it has. Maybe you don't like cats. People walk their cats in your neighborhood. Maybe. So make up a cat bubble, or maybe you don't like gerbils. I don't know. I don't know what you do. Just make it work for you, right? Okay. The second tip is about reaching beyond your senses. Okay. This is about pushing past fear. Okay. And you can use the tip from number one, like you could push your energy out in order to push past fear. But let's say that you have a goal. Okay. And let's say that there's some, I hope you have a goal or an intention at least. And let's say that you sat down and you thought, okay, what can I do? Like what actions can I take to move this forward? And probably some things would come up that might be a little intimidating for you. A little scary or a little like, I don't want to do that, right? Or like the example I talked about earlier, like, wait, was that in this video? That might have been a different... No, that was in a different audio. Never mind. That was not an example I gave earlier. Let me think here real quick. Okay, let's say that you want to grow your business. And one of the ways that you think of to grow your business is by starting a YouTube channel and putting up videos. But then you think, oh my God, I don't know. I don't think I could do that. Right? Like that seems really scary. I don't have a camera. I don't know what to say. What if I mess up? Like that maybe feels really intimidating to you. I mean, I'm saying that because it does to a lot of people. Like a lot of people are really scared to get on camera, right? Much less to put themselves out like to the world. I mean, there's like trolls and stuff on YouTube that like make fun of people and are just rude and ugly, right? I delete most of their comments. But anyway, it happens, right? Or whatever your concern or fear is. Well, you can use this extension of self to push out your energy to do it anyway. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you won't be scared. You might still be terrified. But it's about doing it anyway. And by the way, putting out a video, putting out content on the internet is a great way to like extensions of self, because you just never know. Like, I can't tell you how many clients, like $10,000 clients that found me through my YouTube videos, which by the way, I started doing because I got tired of repeating myself. I'm like, this is BS, showing each person how to use a pendulum. Oi, I'm going to make a video and be done with it, right? And I'll be like, go watch the video before we have a session. That's literally how I started my YouTube channel. Like, I'm sick of explaining this, so I'm just going to do it one time. And that's like, and it's before that first YouTube video, Truth Testing Part 1, was like before, like I had an image makeover and whatever. So like my hair is all crazy and I'm wearing like a sweatshirt or whatever. Like, I don't even know. It's nuts. But yeah, so the more videos you watch, the better looking I get. At least those first ones. Anyway, and then, you hit a point where it's law of diminishing returns. But anyway, you know who still gets better looking, right? Gannon. That's right. It's about being bold and making moves. And you can push out your energy and you can actively use your energy to do that. Look, setting a powerful intention and then visualizing its result, that's like a way of sending out. Remember, we talked in Part 1 about cords of energy. That's a way of taking cords of energy from you through your imagination to that desired result. So you can actually like pull that desired result toward you by sending out energy through the form of intention and visualization. I know, it's so freaking cool, right? I love this stuff. I could talk about it all day. And I almost have. So, all right, that's number 2, right? So don't wait, don't hesitate, don't like, just start doing it. Take a step, whether it's making a video or picking up the phone or putting up a flyer in a coffee shop, or somebody saying, gosh, I really wish I could get some help with this. Maybe it's you saying, well, actually, I do energy healing. Maybe I could help you. That might still be terrifying, but you could do it anyway, right? It's a way of like putting energy out there, and you never know where that will lead, right? Okay, so number 3. Oh, I love number 3. Okay, it's about reaching forward into the future. Did you see Interstellar? You should really rent that movie. I don't want to talk about it because it's long. AF. It is really, really long, but it's totally worth it. It like blew my mind. It's like how Matrix blew my mind like 15 years ago. That's how Interstellar blew my mind like a month ago when I watched it. It's so good. It's so timely for what's going on right now. Let's see. Your future self is wiser and more experienced than you are right now. You can reach out to her. You can talk to her. You can ask her advice. You can write to her. And you can get a response. Time is not linear, right? It's like a wave of possibility. Quantum mechanics is like this wave of possibility. It's only when we focus on one that it collapses and becomes like one thing, right? So your future self is accessible to you. Now, I know it's both intuitive and predictory. We can talk about that after you watch Interstellar. But, oh my God, I love that movie. But you can connect with your future self. And you know what? We did a future self exercise. It's in 2018 Boom. So you can go look that up and find out about it. But that is a way of using an extension of self. Okay? So how else could you extend? What else have you done? What else can you think of? And what will you do? That's what I'd love for you to post in the comments. Let me know what you thought about this video and let me know how it goes. And I'll see you next time.